All right, next topic. We'll hit this one pretty quickly, but is Parity holding back the Xbox One X? So just kind of give people some background on this, and Mike, in case you're not fully aware, I'm not sure. Destiny 2 is going to be coming out on all the consoles and PC. On PC, it will be unlocked. You can get as high a frame rate as you want, along with all the graphical options. On the console, however, the game should look a little bit better on like the Pro and the Xbox One X, but no matter where you play, it will run at 30 frames per second. The developer didn't really say exactly why it's doing this, but the game does have competitive elements, and you could see the argument being that they want to maintain a fair balance between people playing on all consoles, so that if I'm on an X, I can't get 60 frames per second, which is a competitive advantage in certain circumstances. Do you think that this is going to become a wider problem for the Xbox One X? It's more powerful than all the other consoles on the market right now.
Yeah, I mean, it could be, right? It's weird because typically like competition on a console like that is more casual anyways.
Right.
So maybe you shouldn't, but it depends. For like shooters and like strategy and stuff like that, nobody's doing like the tournaments or what have you on that version. For fighting games, maybe that's more of a problem because fighting games are typically usually just are played on those platforms.
Or like games that have like the co-marketing deal, like Call of Duty happens on PlayStation 4 because Sony's paying for it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is a kind of this weird thing, right? Like, because you're talking about all these bells and whistles, but then you have the problem anyways. That is kind of always the problem with these sort of things, is that it impacts some games way more than others.
Right. There is the possibility, and no evidence to support this, that Activision has the co-marketing deal with Sony, and Sony might have something in that contract, or they might just have a verbal agreement saying, hey, you can't make it better on an Xbox system. A lot of people accused Ubisoft of doing this in the early days of this generation, when the PlayStation 4 version of Assassin's Creed Unity, I think, ran at 900p on a PlayStation 4.
I remember this.
When most games were running at 1080p and then 900p on Xbox One. And a lot of people said, oh, Ubisoft must be doing this because Microsoft has the co-marketing deal. So Microsoft said, hey, you can't make it look better on a Sony console. Ubisoft came out and said they weren't doing this, but the wording was maybe vague enough that they could have been doing something, or they just weren't trying, and they could say that they, weren't actively downgrading it, but they never did the work. So yeah, maybe that could be happening in the case of Destiny, but I could still see some other developers making a similar choice for different reasons. But at the same time, I don't think that parity is actually going to be that big a deal. It's going to affect a game here or there, and it's going to fade away like over time. I think if like Destiny 3 comes out in 2 years and we still aren't onto the next generation, they'll just be like, fuck it.
My shoe if that happens.
Yeah. They'll be, fuck it. Let's just make it 60 frames per second on the more powerful consoles. No one's going to care at this point. I think it's just going to naturally fade out over time. At the same time, I like the idea of parity on consoles in certain ways. I wrote a story about this, like PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds on PC. You have to turn down your graphic settings to the very lowest, no matter how powerful your system is, because you get a competitive advantage and everyone else is playing like that. So you have to make your game look like crap if you want to have a chance of winning. I like the idea of the console version, or the Xbox One version of PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds, because I know everyone's graphic settings are going to be exactly the same, and it might look a little bit better on Xbox One X, but the anything that affects gameplay should be exactly the same. So there's an upside to this as well.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
Yeah. Yes.
I don't got much more to say about that.
No, yeah, that's fair, and I don't think there is much more to say. Parity, I don't think it's as big a problem as some people are making it out to be.
Here's another question for you. Do you think the whole virtual console switch thing is pretty much dead at this point?
I don't. If they come back out with something like that, I don't think it'll be called virtual console. They'll probably just start releasing games here and there. That
I mean, that's what they're talking about already. Is they're going to have some old games